Good morning, Mayor. Hey, Taylor, Mike. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Mayor, we're ready. We're ready.
Thank you, Jules. Good morning. Let's call to order the Cuyahoga County Convention Facility Development Corporation Board of Directors meeting for the date of Friday, October 20th, 2023. Julie, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Mayor Sellers,
Here.
Majee McClue.
Here.
Tim Oftermatt,
Here.
Trevor McAleer,
Here.
Debbie Berry, Jeff Epstein,
Here.
David Gilbert,
Here.
Michael Obi, Rashonda Smith. We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Board of, in your package, you should have received the minutes from the last meeting of the Board of Directors for the CCCFDC. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns?
To approve.
All right, there's a motion been made and moved and seconded appropriately. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, those opposed? All right, those minutes are approved. We will now move to the portion of the agenda. Before I go further, can we thank the chef and staff? You make it awful hard.
Yeah,
I'm
you
trying to
know,
watch this figure and I walk in here and this figure and it's staring me in the face.
you ought to try working here.
Like, this is crazy.
So thank you for that, Mayor. I did, Chef Brad and Chef Sarah and the entire culinary team here do a great job. We've won conventions because of their talents. So I asked them to stay behind a little bit. You're welcome to stay through the whole thing if you'd like, just to get some recognition. So thank you, Mayor.
All right. Again, a round of applause for such great. Those of us that stay on the fly and never have time to eat. So this is perfect. All right, let's move to the executive director report. I'm gonna turn it over to George Hillo. George, to the microphone.
Can you hear me? Yeah. We want to just get an update on, I wanted to thank the chefs for what they've done for us and make sure everybody gets something to eat it, try it. We'd like to show it off. I wanted, Levy Jude, our new director over at Levy has implemented some items that he's going to talk about later on. Some really good things that they're doing over there. So we're real proud of that. Okay, I guess that's about it. We'll be going over the budget and that'll take up a lot of time.
Any questions for George? All right, hearing none, we will move on to the 2024 annual plan and budget. And let me just be on the record to say today is just a presentation of the budget for all the board members to see. At the end of the presentation, we do have to approve the budget at some point. I'm going to suggest an offer at the end of the presentation that we do that in November, early November in a special meeting. I want people to be able to look at it, absorb it, and then we'll come back together afterwards. So we'll turn it over to Ron King after he eats the waffle. And then
I'm going to save that waffle, Mayor, for afterwards. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, CCCFDC board and George. We sent out the first draft of the annual plan and budget in October 6th. In its entirety, it's 98 pages long. I'm sure you all enjoyed reading it very specifically. We sent it out again day before yesterday on the 18th. And, to start off with, I want to thank everyone for the trust that they put in myself, my team, and ASM Global. 2024 will be highlighted with 3 signature events that include the American Society of Association Executives that we've been calling ASAE, NCAA Women's Final Four, and the Pan American Games. Thank you, David, for all of those, by the way. And of course, the completion of the expansion project slated for June 28th and the opening of the new atrium space is a key target sales and marketing opportunity for us. For 2024, We have 103 events projected. As of today, 50 are confirmed and 53 are unspecified. So that's our reach is that 53. The confirmed are, again, most of our nationals and our regulars. The 53 is what Travis and the sales team has to go out and find. With the atrium space not coming online until the second half of the year, I feel like that space is going to get a lot of play, even in the second half of the year. And talking specifically about what we're going to do, some of the ways that we're going to market it locally. I would love to invite Destination Cleveland to come over and have events there, downtown Cleveland and others, so that they can get a tour and see the facility and see how it operates, and see what a nice facility it is. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to focus on the budget and sales and marketing plan. And as the mayor said, I was going to originally ask for an approval, but we'll put that off until November. So thank you. Next slide details the budget. 2024 is, as you see on the left, is what we're budgeting for. And I'm comparing that on the far right column to 2023. Really some good comparisons between them. A little more on the gross event income than 2023. Some of that is from the, again, those key signature events that we talked about. Direct event income, again, very similar. Where we start to see a difference, and I'll point this out, on total operating expenses, we start to see some differences there. And again, that goes into more of the quality of event. Some of these events are going to cost us a little more money than otherwise. And then you see a big number jump, and I'm going to point that out: net operating income and expenses. Some of that is two things. One of them is the events that I mentioned that are those signature events are using public use days. So we account for those in our event income, but then we take that rental out at the bottom on the net operating expenses. The other thing that's hitting that line is our preparation for those events. So for ASAE, some of those, the building's getting to be, over 10 years old, and we're going to go through, do some deep cleaning, do some painting, just really extra sensitive to detail, above normal maintenance, but extra sensitive to the detail. So at the end of the day, 2023 budget was at a $3.3 million deficit. We're budgeting 2024 at $4 million. Any questions on the overall budget? Sales and marketing plan, just very quickly. We've got a great sales and marketing team. We're expanding within the industry, so we're working very closely with Destination Cleveland on our looking out into the national. We've changed our competitive analysis a little bit. We've added Cincinnati in. Cincinnati, while they haven't been a competitor in the past, they're going through a renovation. And so we feel like that they're going to be a little more competitive in the past. Everything else stays the same. We look at who our target audience is, and we go through, and again, it's in the annual plan. We go through all of the analysis and target audience, lead sources, all that type of thing. There is in the annual plan a travel schedule, so you can actually see where we're planning on going and why we're planning on going to those areas and what the return on investment is and the exposure. So going on to economic impact, this is something that we've started talking more and more about, and it's really what we're here for, right? So in 2024, we expect over almost 83,000 attendees, over 154,000 room nights, with a total economic impact of over $112 million. And so that's really where, where the rubber meets the highway. We might be putting in $4 million, but we're getting that $112 million back. Not a bad investment. I'd take that any day on my retirement. Capital budget, and this is something we'll have more discussion with. We're looking at about a $3 million capital budget. Now, this does include, and something that'll be a subject for discussion, $700,000 for bird safety measures. And they're categorized into three: the capital equipment and capital improvement. So that's really how we look at, capital replacement, capital equipment, capital improvement. And among those, really, LED lighting. I want to talk about our lighting systems. All the lights are working. Praise you, God. Our lighting system, coming up on 11 years, is past its useful life, and we cannot buy parts for it anymore. So we are looking at going into LED systems throughout the facility, and we're doing that in a staged, staggered approach. So as we take out some lighting systems, that will give us parts to keep going. So you'll be seeing lighting systems, and Mike, correct me if I misspeak, lighting systems in the capital plan for the next few years. Did I say that correctly? All right. I love it when the plan comes together. We also need to resurface the terrazzo flooring, and we have some video walls that again have burned out, and we're plan on replacing in the atrium. You know, that's an opportunity for us for sponsorship dollars with the shows. And that is my presentation of the annual plan and budget, and I take any questions.
Any questions for Ron? And then I'm gonna toss to Jeff real quick before we go to the bird strike update. Talk about the LED.
Yeah, well, thank you. The mayor asked me the question about, he said, these aren't LED lights in here. And the answer is that when this facility was designed and built, it was right at the tail end
That's right.
of conventional lighting. It was right before the technology and everything was there to actually go forward with LED lighting. So it's one of those things where we didn't catch that wave. By the way, if we had, it would not have been good LED lighting anyway, because the technology wasn't there anyway.
That's true.
But you know, it's 11 years later, so now it's time to make that capital change. That's the answer to that question.
So Ron, you're gonna come up with a strategy to look at LED in a phased approach.
Yes, sir. We have a strategy, and I'll let Mr. Campo talk more about the strategy.
Right. Thank you. So our strategy is in 2024 to do this level here. So do the C2 kind of front of the house areas in the restrooms, and then go down to C3, which will include, that's the biggest portion of which will be what, 2025. That'll be the biggest portion of the project, which will include the exhibit hall.
Okay.
The exhibit hall is 225,000 square feet. So a lot of lights on that level, and then work our way down to the ballroom and do C4. It's right around 3 million total. So over the almost 3.5 years.
Are we upgrading? Are we just replacing with equal, or are we up? I mean, will the new lights have, I don't know, change color capability, different things that we need?
We're going to look at that in the ballroom area, but in our pre-function areas here, that's a feature probably might not make sense. That might not be worth the juice might not be worth the squeeze on C2 and in those common areas. We want to focus on spending that money in the ballroom.
That great question, Majid, and a lot of our clients have asked for that technology, especially in the ballroom, and that's something that as we're doing the atrium level expansion, that we're considering and looking at the color changing LED in there. Also, I wanted to point out that a lot of our signage throughout the facility is LED color changeable too, so we can actually take the signage and match it to the show's colors.
Excellent. I think Jeff Epstein has a hand up. Jeff?
Yeah, I was wondering if we've explored any federal grant opportunities around LED upgrades or conversions, whether there are opportunities to offset that cost.
Yes, we have looked into that. We've actually hired an engineering firm to assist us with that. The issue becomes that the non-LED technology that Jeff was speaking about is efficient. And so oftentimes the rebate you get is based on the savings, right? As part of the conversion. So unfortunately, there's not that much savings because the non-LED fixtures were pretty efficient.
Yeah, the one thing to mention, I said that we caught this at the tail end, but this is the best of this conventional technology that was available. So it is, if this was old crappy technology, then going to LED would have a lot of efficiency. It's marginal.
Right.
So we don't have the benefit.
Right.
All right, thank you. Any other questions before we go to the bird strike update? All right, I'll turn it over to Jeff Applebaum for the bird strike update.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to do this briefly. So this whole issue of bird safety came to us in two different ways. When we, with respect to the expansion of our ballroom, in order for us to get through our city planning and permitting process, The city looked at our design and indicated that they would give us conditional approval. The condition was that we addressed the potential of bird strikes on the new west side of our facility. So that glass, and you'll hear about this in a few minutes. So that was, something that made sense to do. Technology, which is another item of technology that was not available when we did this building that is available now, is what was referred to as bird safety glass. It's glass that has UV characteristics, so birds see the glass. They don't see it as clear. Humans see it as clear. So we have on the west side of the building agreed to a change to that glass, which is accommodated within our budget. It's expensive. It's over $400,000, but that glass is now on the ballroom side. The rest of this issue, though, this really stems from requests that were made of us from different sources, but the county council's education, environmental and sustainability committee was looking into this. They asked us to consider studies which have been done, and I did make a presentation a couple weeks ago in front of that committee. And if you're interested, you can go to YouTube and you can see the long presentation with all the slides, which I'm not going to do now. But essentially, what it showed is there was a study done that did show that we probably have something on the vicinity of 100 bird strikes that we can record a year in the vicinity of the convention center. Most of those strikes occur with the vent stacks that are on the malls. There's over 30 vent stacks on the malls. There's also there are a couple of areas where you have the stairs that rise up and they have the reflective glass on the outsides. In order to make that bird proof, you would either have to put vinyl on it with dots, or you could sheathe it with vinyl. You could do artwork and things like that on it. It's expensive. I mean, the cost of doing that, and that's why you saw the $700,000 item that Ron talked about. That's about what it would cost all in order to cover all that. And you'd have to, by the way, replenish that every 5 to 7 years. So what we've simply done right now, we have a placeholder in this. The question of whether this is done is a question to consider. Obviously, we would be looking. This would be part of our capital budget, and ultimately that would have to be approved, and the county would have to fund that because that's not currently in our budget. So that'd have to be part of the approved budget. So that's one issue for consideration, and I'll send to board members the entire presentation on this. Now, there are two other areas. One area is the east wall of our building. And right now, our approach there is look and see. We actually didn't have a high percentage of bird strikes there because these bird strikes occur at the ground level. It's when birds come down to the grass, and then when they come back up, it's the first 30 feet. We do have a potential to do that, but our recommendation is to wait and see and continue to monitor there. The fourth area of concern would be the handrails, the glass handrails, but those are within the control of the city, not us. So we couldn't do those, and we couldn't put vinyl on those if we wanted to. And that's simply an issue. It would be up to the city to decide what they want to do. I will point out that on the east side of our building, we really would hesitate to do dots there or anything unless it was really a compelling reason, because that will impact the visitor experience. It also will, frankly, it's environmentally, there's a negative aspect because it will reduce light coming into the building. It will also reduce heat gain during the winter. So there's another environmental concern there. But for right now, that's kind of the status of what we're looking at. There's a placeholder in the budget, but that's a decision to be made. And that's really something that the county really needs to also think about, because ultimately that would be their funding responsibility, because they'd have to approve our budget, but then that would be a direct hit on the budget to do that. So I'll take any questions, but that's really the status.
Debbie?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. And Jeff, you know, I was at your presentation that you did at county council. Correct me if I'm wrong, $700,000 is in addition to county staff doing the installation, correct? So there's actual additional dollars on the county to put this up. Is that correct?
No, well, let me tell you what there's actually two approaches there. There was a number that was slightly under 700. Now that would be if we had an independent contractor do it. If the county staff did it, you'd still have to buy the materials, and there may be some savings. We haven't explored what that would be. But keep in mind, that's with the vinyl dots. If you were going to do this, and I think some people would say you would want the opportunity to do something which was either public art or something that was, a little bit, take advantage of that. If we did that, that does not include any of that 700 doesn't include any money for artists or for curating art. So
Which is
those
also a
are,
larger process.
yeah, that's
obviously,
right.
And I've heard different views. Do these dots really work? Do they make an impact? Do we have data on how successful they are?
I will turn the bird experts over to you. That's the solution that they all suggest be used. I really, I don't know how effective that solution is. It's just if you go to the experts Lights Out Ohio, if you go to the independent consultant that we talked to, they all have said this is the solution. Now, it's very interesting because I actually haven't seen the studies to show how effective that solution is, but that is the universal solution they all talk about using.
Yeah.
Apparently it works because the birds do see it and they don't crash into it. So you got to believe it's effective or they wouldn't say it's the solution, but I haven't seen the studies.
I guess I'd just like to better understand that. I mean, this is a very large investment, I think, for one small issue. And it isn't necessarily helping our building or attract visitors or anything. So I just want to make sure if we think that this is the way we want to go and we think it's a priority, that we're sure the technology, is
Yeah.
going to make an impact. There has to be studies that have been done.
Yeah, well, there have been on the effectiveness. I just don't have, but I will also say that, there's been 2 news articles about this recently, but when this migration issue happened in Chicago, it was 1 million birds. We have, we're talking about hundreds, not
Yeah.
millions. So
That to me
it's
seems
a
like
qualitative,
there has to be some
it's a judgment call.
Yeah, and then just one final question. I feel that you're recommending that we do not do this on the east side because of the impacts to the building itself and the visitor experience. But yet that dollar amount is also being recommended in the budget. So
It's no, it's not. No, let me clarify. The cost that's in the budget would only be the cost of doing the malls, the stacks.
okay,
The cost to do the east side of the building, depending on what you do, because you could do the entire height or you could just do the first 30 feet, which is really where the issue might be. That's only it's not only, but that's like a couple $100,000. In fact, it's less than that if you only do a portion of it. Any one of these costs, though, anytime you use the film, it's a recurring cost. It's 5 to 7 years. So the cost actually is higher than that because once you do it, you have to replenish it. And the other thing about that I should point out is that the other reason for waiting on the east wall is that from a percentage point of view of the birds that we're seeing there, that was in the teens. Out of 100% total, it was less than 20% of the total. The area, if you do this at all, it's on the malls. That's where the primary issue is.
okay. I think it will be really helpful for everyone to see your full presentation and for everyone to. really
I
get
will
some
send the
thought.
presentation, and if you want to watch the video, you
I
can
saw it.
you can see the YouTube.
Yeah, I think Jeff, you just hit the point that I wanted to emphasize is I think from my standpoint as a board member, at the end of the day, the county owns the building. If the county wants to make the investment in that investment, that is the county's right. And that's proper. From the board's perspective, I think my primary concern is the impact on the building and the aesthetics, because it's not a monetary impact for the board, the county's paying for it, but we would want to make sure that it, you know, when you talk about the dots, we're literally talking about the convention center guy. I mean, so we have to be very careful about the aesthetic portions here. And two, I think everybody needs to have the understanding that we're talking about a cost that every 5 years, we're gonna have, you know, the county will have to repay. This is not a one-time investment and it's gone. But at the end of the day, it's somebody else's investment, not ours, but just.
All right, so any other questions? All right, so I'm gonna ask, Malvin presented the annual plan and budget, by Ron. Jeff's gonna send out the additional information on the, presentation. Please take the time. Please take the time to, go through it. I am not gonna request that we, in order to have everybody review the information, we come back and take a vote on this, I'm gonna propose a November 10th special meeting. Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff, you got a question? I'm sorry. Jeff,
You know, it's more just a comment and not to be crass in terms of the impact, but it, you know, I'm curious what percentage of the 100 birds a year are on the malls, and I think there's a little bit of a math question here of, you know, if we're spending 700 grand every few years, what is kind of the cost per bird strike that it's costing us, and does that seem like a valid use of tax dollars in this particular scenario? It feels to me like it's probably, you know, we're valuing bird lives in the thousands, and I don't know if there's a consensus on kind of what that economic value is, that we could take into place when we're making decisions here.
And Jeff, I'm going to tell you that the numbers and the information, the analysis will be in the presentation I give to you. So you'll see the numbers. You'll see the information. It is a completely valid question. It's a policy issue that has to be decided. Now, I will say this: there are other cities that now have ordinances on this. So a lot of cities have looked at the issue and they actually have passed ordinances to describe how this is to be done. Cleveland is not right now. So there's no clear answers to these questions, and there's no legislated answers to these questions right now. It's a matter of judgment, but I'll provide everyone on the board with the information for you to think about that question.
And Jeff, just to add to that, and I think you mentioned this, right? I mean, the city of Cleveland, when we were going through for permits, right? They required that part of the
the city,
expansion. So
yeah, Jeff, I will say that, you know, when we did our plan, the city did take the position that they would not approve the plan unless we addressed bird safety. And so we had a conditional approval, and to meet that test, we did have to utilize bird glass. Now, there's a difference, though. I will say this: there's a difference to what you do prospectively and what you do retroactively. It's one thing to say you're doing a new building, there's technology available, we'd like to see you use that technology, because no one, you know, because we can't study what the possible effect is in the future, because that hasn't been built yet. That's one thing, and there's some justification, I think, for doing that. To do it retroactively, you know, I think it's a different question, but it's a policy issue.
And if I might just add, I mean, the city is not mandating that every building go through and retroactively. So we may be solving one small problem with one building, but again, to Jeff's point, is it worth what we're putting in when those dollars could be used for other things?
Yeah.
And I just, again, I keep repeating this because the critical point in my mind is the renewal. And I say it more, not just from a budgetary standpoint, but again, caring about the aesthetics. So if this thing is going to look worn down for years, we can't be having the discussion with the county and being told that, hey, it's working, you know, the birds are still not hitting, but then we have a building that's a tourist attraction that somehow that aesthetically does not look right. So I think the commitment has to be with the understanding from the beginning that it has to be recurring, any repairs that need to, because we're talking about very visible parts of the convention center. So we can't lose sight of the aesthetics on an ongoing
To-
basis, not just a one-time.
Yeah, to put that in perspective, spending $400,000 one time for a building, over 40 or 50 years, you're not repeating that. It's one time versus spending whatever it is, $700,000, and then repeating that every 5 to 7 years. So the one-time expenditure over time is a much better investment than anything that you would do with film or something repeatedly to that point.
Mr. Chair, may I also note, you said throughout November 10th, that is a county holiday. It's Veterans Day.
Is it?
So
Really?
you're closed.
Oh, you don't want to work there. All right, we will have to adjust our schedule then. Let me look at the schedule. Let's see here. Right, check your calendars real quick. How's the 8th? Wednesday. I would say Thursday, but you got the lakefront meeting on Thursday.
Time are you thinking?
Like maybe the 17th. I just would rather have a little more time to.
I think Ron's got to do some things here. So
Mr. Mayor, it is what it is. But I appreciate the consideration.
The 17th, I don't think I wouldn't be.
It's the 9th, what?
Tell you what, how about the,
Can I ask a quick procedural question, which is the delay in voting on the budget solely related to this change on the bird strike?
no, I think it's more so the bird strike, and then people are seeing this presentation for the first time and have the chance to digest the
Okay,
plan and budget, so I think that's all a part of it.
It was sent to the twice.
I mean,
Second time.
you read it, right? You might have read it, but now you have some contextual facts. That's why I asked the question. If you have any questions about it, this would be the time to do it, so.
yeah, but I guess I would say, just from my perspective, if we postpone the decision on the bird strike, the rest of the budget, I've reviewed, I don't know if other board members have had time to review it. It doesn't strike me as radically different than it has been in prior years, and perhaps we could vote on that right now and just kick the bird strike issue later.
I preferably prefer to do it all.
Okay.
Right. Pretty much. I
agree, Mr. Chair. If we can figure it out a date here in early November.
Is there anything preventing us from making the next meeting a Zoom meeting without having?
No, you can, we could do it as a Zoom meeting. We're not exactly under the same strictures as others. We could do it as a Zoom meeting. Quite frankly, we could even do it. We could do it by email, but it would take a unanimous vote. But we can do it as a Zoom meeting.
I could do the 8th, but it's just I have a doctor's appointment at 8:05 a.m. So if we do it at 9 by Zoom, I can do that.
Can we do it 9th at noon?
I have a conflict.
All right.
Yeah.
And
So
this
then
is
the
gonna
8th,
come down
all
to,
right, so we're the 8th. Hey, what time? What time you wanna do it on the 8th? I'm clear.
I can do it on.
I've got a standing team meeting with my cluster on Wednesday mornings.
So
as do I.
all right, so if we do the 8th, can you do the 8th at noon? This is not gonna take long.
Works. Yeah. I could do noon on me.
Works.
I probably can't, but I don't want, but I will do I'm gonna be out of town at a conference and I have a dinner scheduled, but I'm not, do not, just to let you know ahead of time, do not let it affect whether or not we do it. I'll still. try to
All right,
get on.
so I'm gonna suggest, the suggestion is to do the eighth at noon by Zoom.
Okay.
Is everybody okay with that? Okay, so, all right, we'll do the eighth, and it's just this budget vote we're taking that day. Okay, perfect. Thank you for your accommodation. All right, we're gonna go to Ron King and the Convention Center update.
Thank you. Mayor, Mr. Chairman, Mayor. However you like to be. So just real quick, through the third quarter, we've hosted 78 events, 162,000 attendees. Currently, compared to budget, we're showing a $60,000 favorable variance. We're confident that that variance into the positive is going to grow. We've had some fantastic shows that have not yet been accounted for, and some fantastic shows that are still upcoming. Next slide, please. I do want to point out something, and our new atrium space. As of October, so as of this month, our sales team has 24 events that are booked definite, including 8 for 2024. Some of those highlighted events: American Society for Association Executives that we mentioned, Association of State Dam Safety. There's an association for everything. Educational Testing Service. This is huge. I want you to look at those numbers. They're coming in 2025, 26, 27, 28. There is a possibility that they may go out into future years. Total room nights. This is per year. 15,293 room nights. That's with 1,500 people here at any one time. That event goes on over several weeks. This is going to be great for Cleveland, for downtown Cleveland. These folks will be caught up here in the convention center all day, and come 5 o'clock in the evening, they will go out and be ready to get out of here and hit the hotels and bars and restaurants. And it's going to be fantastic for Cleveland. This was really a true partnership that we did with Destination Cleveland. National Association of Credit Management.
Ron, where are they
Yes.
coming from? Where did they hold them in prior years? What?
I think they were in St. Louis for a lot of years.
And we were competing with 3 different cities on this one, Trevor, and we pulled out all the stops. And this is another one. I mentioned our food and beverage, our culinary team
I was
earlier.
just gonna ask what kind of food and beverage are we looking at with
They're still with it because so this is very structured. It's not like a convention where people come and go. These are AP reading tests that these instructors are coming in and basically grading these AP tests. So they're very structured. They're from, I'm making up these times, but 8 to 5, they cannot leave. It's not a come and go. So they will have food here within the convention center. I want to say, and Trevor, don't hold me to this, Travis isn't here today. He's in Las Vegas with Destination Cleveland doing an event. It's over $1 million a year in food and beverage for us. So, and again, because of the length of time.
Do we know who we're competing against? Who
We
beat
do,
out?
but I don't off the top of my head, but I can get that to you.
Okay.
Yes, certainly.
That annual room number is crazy. I mean, I wouldn't expect that many room nights
I will
each
tell
year.
I will tell you.
I thought it was a total for the 4 years.
No.
That was up there.
I will because they're here for over a week, 2 weeks. I will tell you that event in and of itself really makes sense as to why we're doing what we're doing here. It really does. They're using the entire facility, not just the atrium. And if not for the atrium, they would not be here.
Ron, could I just wanna
Absolutely.
add, 'cause I really want to stress that point. We're going to try to work with the convention center, over the next year and create an analysis. The fact that event would not have been here, we're going to start to look at what are events that are booking and have already booked that would not be here, but for the expansion. And we could start to back out what is the effect on the county's general fund? Because I think we're going to be able to start showing that investment is already making money for the county. And this was a great example of that.
Absolutely. And you look at future events for 2024 and future years, we have 50 that we have literally have proposals out. These aren't just a phone call we're working with 50 more events, 2024 and future years. So this is just a great win for the city and for the county. One thing that I will do into the future is I'll start putting economic impact on what these events are, working with Destination Cleveland, as David just said.
Ron, what time of the year are they here? What is that?
May. Thank you, team. Yeah, May into June. Thank you. So great event for us. Next, yes, sir.
Well, what is obesity?
That's for people like me, Mayor. So, no.
What do they do?
Obesity it's doctors and clinicians that
Okay. All right,
They're,
okay.
they're celebrating. obesity.
Like, what is this?
it's because I work here, Mayor.
We're serving breakfast like this every day.
I'm like, what is this?
Give them training on how to gain weight.
And Ron, that is just a snapshot of groups that have
Those-
booked the new atrium, right? There's other stuff going on. It's just the,
Yeah, so
okay.
so far we have 24 events that are booked into it. So those are just like the ones that I really wanted to pull out and show. If not for that, this would not be happening. Any other questions? So yeah, I want to talk about, we've really upped our game on social media and continue in the news. So just in this last quarter, we had 53 mentions in articles. You see a listing there of all the things, Black Law Enforcement, which was Noble, which was a great show for us. Print Show, American Trucking Association, National Plumbing and Heating. All of these were shows that we had in this last quarter. Pickle in the Land. Thank you again, David. That's upcoming. That's going to be a great show for us. We hope it's an annual. It's going to happen in December. Pickleball here in the convention center. Fantastic. Society of Plastics Engineers, and of course the renovation of our space. The next slide. So not only just on the convention center side and the operations, but George mentioned our new general manager with Levy Jude. We have a fantastic team here, and Jude's come in the last couple of months and has really brought what we've been looking for with looking at technology, looking at quality, looking at things that we can do better. This board has always been very, very supportive of our technology efforts. So I'm going to ask Jude to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that we're doing. Oh, he's down there.
Jude, I was looking at the light. I was thinking when it went yellow, it wasn't working, but I was like, it is working.
It knew what it was every time.
It's working. You can try to fool it, you can try to stack up some of the chips underneath the beverages, and it's pretty impressive technology. You see the little, antenna out there with the green light. One of the things that we can also do, and Scott, I really put my head to it, we can increase our product offering in this things, and also my things like ready to drink cocktails.
We had it.
And people can go through.
I see you. I was able to get it by, but I'm like that, man. I'm pretty careful. Yeah, thinks it's the Lay's barbecue. I got it too.
Yeah.
I'm charging. I'm expensing it to George. It's okay.
Jude, did you say you just started using this just this weekend or you're?
Yeah, just this past week. And we're stepping into it. We wanted to make sure that we did it right. Our expectations for us. So we wanted to make sure that we weren't getting too much in savings. So we had some of this very thing that went very long. And then we asked them, I think we found that. And what we've been told is that people will buy more.
I was just gonna, do you project increased sales because of the machines?
We already saw increased sales over the last 30 years. 6,000. When we look at it, we see how it's going to be some increase across the board. And also with the reduction of the variability. We will find in the concession. And thank you very much. And next initiative I'm going to talk about is an issue of change to the profit. So maybe we have a copy of the change to prior to the event start up that meeting about the maybe we can't be going to the copy, but change to the initiative is going on the and it makes it special, not only to the copy, but it's behind every correct, always doing another news. Maybe the news of the it's not like the copies and it's substantial. All the profits in the copy where the path is the so very bad. Maybe anybody in the building. It's nice to see that. If you really, I say, we can do that. And we're going to launch and we stuff. And we're finding that people are willing to spend more. We feel good.
The one thing with Starbucks is it's always roasted a bit too dark. Are you guys doing, I mean, the specialty roasts tend to be lighter roast. Are you guys having that kind of option with lighter roast?
But what's interesting is, Jim Cruz kind of feeling the same way, right? Starbucks is both of them, taking coffee, and listening to just a little bit too much, so that very specific flavor, nothing in the price point, and then happy with that. The change for the standards, you go right after that roast, the 10 substantial, it's a really nice, very more of a, overall. It was one of those issues, you get nervous, I mean, everybody knows that, but it's a big problem. You have it. But when you see and take the coffee, there's a very complete. Lastly, yes, I was thinking, Ron, to recognize you, really haven't seen sometimes, we don't get that recognition. And I'll tell you, one of the things that we mentioned, that was exactly what I was saying yesterday. The CEO of the company, really good man, and that's kindness in the country. The government, and the CEO of the company. Really want to and that's kind of the issue. You want to make sure that the people come to,
Yeah.
you know, the stuff vision that the resources that we have,
That's good stuff. Thank you, Jude. All right, any questions? All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item, the Thompson-Hine Agreement. George?
Mayor, I need to recuse myself from that matter, but.
Go ahead.
Oh.
It's up at the end of this year. Jeff and I have met to go over it. We agreed to what we were paying in the past was $7,500 a month for all the normal recurring work that we have. And if there's any additional work that we need Jeff to help out with, or Thompson to help out with, that we will approve that individually. And he's agreed to that. You guys agreed to it? Now, what do we?
George has explained that I have agreed to it,
Yeah,
therefore I have agreed to
Like,
it.
was that a question or a directive?
Do we need to vote on that?
Yeah, well, I think we're gonna have to vote on the contract, right?
So,
Yeah,
Mr. Chair, George, just to confirm, so we're paid $7,500 a month now. Next year's still $7,500 a
No,
month?
we were paid 7,000. We
Oh, okay.
reduced it. It was 7,500 and I reduced it.
it was 75, then it went to
Seven,
7,
yeah.
I was going back to 75.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's making what he made 4 years ago.
What?
He's making what he made 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
George looks at inflation, generally goes the opposite direction. So when inflation went up, my contract
We're
went down. Now that inflation has gone down a little bit, I get to get some of it back. This is.
Are
George's
you
reasoning.
1 year contract, 2 year contract? What are you proposing?
We can do a
1 year contract, George.
1 year.
Yeah.
All right, 1 year back.
That's the government work.
Yep.
Move for approval.
All right, so there's a motion made to approve that. Is there a second? Been probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Signify by saying no. All right, welcome back.
I do want to thank you for the ability and privilege of continuing to work. Ever since this was built, I've enjoyed this, and it's important to us to keep our relationships.
Mr. Chair, just on logistics, if things come out of the ordinary of the contract, who authorizes that? Is it George? Is it a George and a board member? How's the approval process go for anything above $7,500 a month?
Well, go ahead, George, but what we have been doing is I present it to George, we go through it, I basically estimate it. And honesty, what I usually do, it's about half of it's a fixed fee, it's about half of our normal rate.
So George has the ability
George does that.
under
He
our
does.
kind of purchasing policies that our spending policies that we authorize. I just want to make sure we're
Right.
Yeah,
not going outside of that. And
because these up to now, each one of these individual items has been well within his limits.
okay,
These are, these
Yeah.
are in the,
Okay.
yeah, they're well within it.
Great question, so.
just want to make sure if it was cumulative over
Right.
50,000, if we should.
And I will tell you, so we had that arrangement this year and cumulatively it's all under 50,000.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I think we keep operating that way unless
Yeah.
we see that for the need to go above 50, then have,
Come
I
back
think,
to
it,
the board. right?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Jeff and George. Appreciate it.
All right, so, any other questions? All right, so we'll move on to the next agenda item. We want to hear about the project update. I'm gonna turn it over to Ellis Katz and Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-mm,
No.
no, try it again.
Can you hear me?
Bring it closer.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to introduce Turner to give you an update on the construction. The one thing I would like to suggest, if for anybody that's interested, is there has been a lot of progress, and I think you might find it quite interesting to tour today. We've got the truss up, and Turner will explain that. It's a massive truss that is allowing us to cut loose 4 columns to allow our ballroom to expand. And so I think that's something some people might want to see after the meeting. So I'm going to let Turner give you an update on the construction, and I'll tell you about the numbers.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Morning, go ahead.
Then, as Alice stated, we have just, I have good news for the board. We've just gotten past what I feel is the most challenging part of this construction project, the reinforcing of that west wall. The complication of making that wall be able to hold up the building, taking the exterior wall off the building, reinforcing with the trusses so we could jack the building up and pull these 4 columns out is truly the most challenging part of this job. And we've successfully gotten by that hurdle this week, and we're in the process of putting the exterior wall back together. So the team's really excited about getting past that milestone because now it clears the footprint so we can start with the new addition. So that's great news. When we started this is truly a unique construction process with the truss. There's more welding going on in that truss than I've seen in my career, to be honest with you, on that area of a building. And we monitored the labor productivity on it very closely during the beginning of the job. We found that the contractor was falling behind what we'd hoped. So we added 50% of the welders to the project and went to 10-hour days to make sure we tracked and kept close to our project. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So as you can see, our first diamond on there, the C-line truss facade. If you look at it last time we talked in July, that diamond was at August 1st or October 1st. I'm sorry, October 1st. So we did take an impact of about 4 weeks off of a schedule that went beyond what we had originally anticipated. But we did stop it from becoming something that could have been easily 8 to 10 weeks. So we pulled it back. And that's no need to get concerned about the end date because we are maintaining the same end date. When you're putting together a construction schedule for any project, and especially one as complex as this, you don't target the best case. You target somewhere between the best and the worst, not to the worst. So our schedule was able to compensate for that 4 weeks. So we are maintaining our end date, and we've gotten past what I feel is what the most significant challenge. So if you do get a chance to go out and take a look at it, there's a lot of exciting work to see in the building right now, both on the exterior facade and the landings for all the escalators are being put in place also, and the atrium being hung from the roof there also. So a lot of complicated work's happened over the last several months, but we're heading towards the finish line, getting ready to start our building. With that, I'll let Terry Donovan, my project manager, walk through specific line by line detail of where we are and where we're heading.
Thanks, Ed. Next slide, please. Can you hear me? All right. So like Ed said, some of the key activities that we just wrapped up, or since the last time we met anyway, we did finish the foundations for that new steel at the west facade. We finished the steel truss at C-line. Again, big milestone there. Like Ed said, actually, I was telling somebody right before the meeting, some of the knuckles for that big truss, we had it sitting outside next to one of the guys, and the knuckle, just the knuckle for that truss was about 8 feet tall, towered over the worker next to it. So there's a lot of welding that went into that. So really big milestone to have that truss, that steel truss at C-line finished. Another part of that is when we did take off the exterior facade of the building, we ripped out a big portion of the concrete floors at every floor, all 5 floors. So that concrete has since been put back on every floor with the exception of level 2, because 2 is going to tie into the new terrace that you're going to have that walks out over the new addition. We also finished the atrium above ceiling work for hanging the escalators and stairs. I don't know, for those of you that walked around previously, we had the atrium ceiling wide open. We had to reinforce all the structure and put the hangers in that are going to hold the the escalators and the stair. So that's now finished. We're currently installing, as Ed said, the west facade precast. We're also installing the escalator steel. And if you do go for a tour, you're going to see the escalator parts have started to arrive. So it comes in kind of sections. You'll see where the landings are. You'll see the long straight runs, but a lot of that's now sitting in what is the old ballroom at the moment, and starting to get brought into the atrium. So they'll be starting to put those together. Just looking ahead, some of the upcoming things to keep an eye out for. We'll be completing that west facade, so putting that precast back on. We'll begin installing the west facade windows. We'll complete setting the escalator steel, and then that'll follow up obviously with the escalators that I was just telling you about. Following the escalator steel, because you'll see we're congesting that big atrium. We're filling it up pretty quick with all those escalators. After that stuff happens, then we'll be bringing in the monumental stair that goes to the south side of that atrium. And then the other thing where we feel like we're really making headway, Ed kind of said, yeah, it's been taking us a little longer on that steel and all that welding. We feel like we're kind of ahead of the game on a lot of the interior rough-in for a lot of our mechanical systems on this project. So we have a new exhaust system for the kitchen area that goes all the way up through the building through 5 floors up to the roof. We have new ductwork going throughout this facility in preparation for our new air handling unit. So it's a lot of the behind the scenes things on the other floor on the interior that we're really we're kind of ahead of the game, if anything, on the schedule in those fronts. Next slide. And then just kind of giving everybody an update on where we're at. We've had over 200 workers on this project now. That adds up to approximately 30,763 man hours. Since the last time we met, we have not had any injuries, so we've still only had one injury. That injury did not result in any worker lost time, which is good. And then with that, we'll go to the next slide. You want to give them
This slide illustrates our community commitment towards the project. And we have bought out 99% of the subcontracts, so it's becoming more and more defined. The only packages we have left to buy is interior and exterior cleaning. And we need to see how much mess we make before we go buy that to make sure we buy it right. As far as our contracting goals, we are exceeding our MBE goal of 18%. We're currently at 22%. Our FBE, female business enterprise, goal of 7%. We're at 9%. We're exceeding that one. And the SBE goal of 5%, we're at 13%. So we have committed plans by all our subcontractors to meet these goals. It's just our job right now to manage it and make sure that they follow through with those commitments, but we're tracking very well on the business side of the community commitment. Under the workforce goals, we're currently at 41% county residency, and the goal there is 40. If you recall, last month we were tracking slightly under that, so we've improved that to get over our county residence goal of 40. The same holds true for the city of Cleveland residency. We're currently over the 20% at 23%. Last time we met in July, it was again trailing below that. So we need to do a little bit more work on our minority workforce, which our goal is 18%. We're only at 16 right now, so we need to work on that. And on our female workforce, it's goal of 6, and we're only at 2. So we need to work on those two parts. So hopefully next time we meet, we'll be pushing more up above the goal. So those are we're tracking very well towards our community commitment.
What is happening with the minority and the women workforce? What is the issue?
There are a lot of projects around town that all have the same types of goals. And some of the work that we've been doing has been very specialized, like the welders. There's only certain people that are certified for welding. There's only a couple in the union. To get the 50% more we had to get was challenging enough to begin with. So it's kind of the specialized work's gone away. And now that we're getting into more conventional construction of the buildings and the interiors, and I think we're going to have a much better attitude, much better ability to get more workforce. And that's going to be our push over the next 3 months before we get to the next board meeting.
Are we doing anything? I mean, obviously, the ultimate goal here of doing what we do is I'll just say it this way, not to give the low hanging work to minority workers. The hope is sort of we use these projects as a way to provide the necessary training to get them into the certification space so that we're not, to get them more. So are we doing anything on this project toward that goal in the sense of, okay, you don't have enough minority certified welders. Are we doing anything here to get us there?
Well, with this one, to get that training in place and get the certification in place for this job would have taken too long to actually get that in place, to be honest with you. You have to work through the training, you get the certification, and then you become the person that can do the welding on the site. So the timeline to get that specific trade involved, I don't think we had the ability to do that on this project. But we are absolutely, we're not going for the low hanging fruit on any of this, and we are pushing all the goals, and we're gonna exceed these. And it's not going to be by any type of menial work. It's going to be
And I
creative
want
work that's going to help grow the community.
And I want to remind everybody that we have a project labor agreement in place on this project, so we are working with the unions on each of these categories of work, and they have workforce training, apprenticeship commitments, and we're all involved with all of those programs. That's why we entered into the PLA. So it's a teaming effort involved to do this, but we have the pieces in place to maximize it. Trevor?
Thanks. I was particularly interested in what programs Turner might be undertaking to get to meet and exceed the workforce goals in particular. Now that you're getting toward the end of the project, might be really challenging.
We have a plan in place with each contractor. We meet with them. We meet with them each monthly to make sure that who's meeting their commitment and who's not, who needs to be pushed and brought to the table. And we're continuing to have those meetings to make sure that we do exceed these goals. And we haven't missed once in my career at Turner, and we're not gonna miss this one. Our goal is to exceed these goals by far, but we do need to put more effort towards the workforce, which we are.
I appreciate the comment about it. You know, if we started trying to train more right now, it would be too late for this project. But is Turner doing anything for the future projects, right? We know we might not have enough welders right now in those specific categories, but can you touch a little bit about what Turner is doing in terms of efforts for the next project? So we might not be in the same situation for the next project. Rock Hall's got one coming up, right? We know other stuff coming around. Just curious, is Turner actively involved in that? So we're maybe not saying the same thing on the next project.
We're actively involved with the unions, who are basically the people that bring the workforce in, to make sure that they are opening up their doors to bring in the workforce.
Do you think with both, particularly the minority and female workforce, you think we're going to be able to hit those goals at the end of the project?
I do believe we are.
What do you have some kind of protections in place to make sure that the way we meet those goals is by having the female and minority workers working on the job actually doing the work, as opposed to just adding to the payroll and giving them, just to make the numbers, as opposed to having them actually do the work?
No, absolutely. They have to bring valuable work to the project.
Well, and it's not about them bringing valuable works. Again,
Us giving them the
point is them
opportunity,
getting the
us giving the
training
opportunity. Yes.
I just got to point out, don't conflate workforce and contracting. Workforce is actual workforce. Those are actually people working on the project doing work. You can't front that. It's the actual workforce. So that's what the numbers down below are talking about.
how much time is there between substantial completion date and the big show in August?
Our substantial completion date is June 28th.
The
Okay.
show is August 10th, so about a month and a half.
Okay. We feel okay about that?
Just about to ask that. Tim, just about to ask.
I don't know where Ron went. I would like Ron to answer that.
Yeah, just about to ask that. Substantial completion and ready for the show and two different things. Are you jealous?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to answer for Ron, but I think one of the things that we're going to try to implement, and I think we have to have that conversation, is, we're putting in a new kitchen off the ballroom that's going to allow for Jude and his team to be able to be very efficient with what they're going to do in the atrium side of the complex. And so I think what we want to try to do is even if you have to wear PPE to do it, is we'll get the kitchen equipment in place and allow you to start burning it in. You get used to how it's going to be organized for your staff, things like that. I think that's probably one of the key points. I think the rest of the facility, is just like any part of the existing convention center, other than getting used to, moving about it. There are some storage rooms that we'll be able to use that we can start populating with equipment and things like that as well, I believe. So I think we can do some things before we actually get substantial completion, quote unquote, that will allow ASM and their team to get in.
So will you have enough time? Will you have enough time from the time you get to your substantial completion date and the show be ready to be up and really running, right? Because and I have tested things that need to be tested.
Mike, you want to answer that question?
Answer yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, a lot of it's gonna be determined upon when things are turned over to us as the operators start testing these things, right? But, as long as that equipment's in place, Gene, Chris, you guys can chime in and you've got several weeks to test that and work out the kinks. I mean, I feel good about it. So it's just, there is, because we kind of went through it when this building first opened up and I was a part of that. There's a punch list and you got to work through it. There's some items to work through and that does take time. So the earlier you give it to us, Turner, the better we'll be ready.
I still remember the signs where you needed to go to make a phone call to the convention center. when
Yes.
it opened. So
And
something-
it's the life safety system. There's a lot of kinks that need to be worked out. So.
But, just to be clear, the way this works is it's not, we will have activities prior to substantial completion. We will have a schedule of when equipment is available, when work can be done. We did it, we've done it on every project. And you don't wait till the last minute to turn it over. So we'll work backwards from the opening date and have the burn-in dates and have the equipment dates, and these guys will be able to take occupancy and they'll be able to start that work to be in time for the event.
I would just add on kind of the soft cost and the soft project items, FF&E, OS&E, all those have been bid out. We feel really good about when the furniture is going to be delivered, when the technology that we're going to tie in is going to be delivered, and the timelines, lead times for those, we feel really good about.
Well, as long as I'm in a project now, so I mean, the sooner you can get it, the better off you'll be. And, so Ron, I guess you're managing, micromanaging the schedule because, because things can slide on you, right?
I'm apprehensive.
Yeah.
I'm watching it.
Okay.
I'm not just, nothing against anyone. I'm not just taking it at face value, Mayor.
That works. Right. I got it. And so Turner, you will continue to, and Ellis, you'll continue to let
Absolutely.
let the staff know things are starting to slide here. And
No, we meet on a weekly basis, if not more than that, on the project with ASM's team. So, and we involve all aspects of ASM's team, from their IT to the food and beverage team. So we'll continue to work to plan and get ready for the opening.
I will tell you that I brought up on the call earlier this week. I left the event here on Friday and Friday evening, and I was on my way to Fahrenheit Week, and I was stuck at the light. I parked my car. I'm looking at the side of this west side of this building. I'm looking at the calendar. I know what's coming. I'm like, where you at on this thing? Right. There was some concern to me. Because I know you want to be boxed in to work here, right? And I'm like, I hadn't seen anything protrude off the side of this building.
Well, Ed, I think I'd like Turner to talk a little bit about that, because there's a lot of things that they're going to be doing before they're quote unquote in the dry in the expansion of the ballroom that I'd like you guys to talk about, because there's ways to actually be very efficient with that.
Yeah, we now open up the footprint for the building. We plan on having the building topped out by December. We plan on having the good part about this building that's different than the typical single-story building is that we have a concrete pad on top of the roof. So we're gonna pour that roof pad first of the year, and that gives us a dry space to work underneath. So although we're not totally enclosed, we can do a lot of work underneath with the overhead mechanical, electrical. And then once the wall starts wrapping, we'll start with the soffits and bringing in when we get temperature control, bring in the carpentry. So it leaves us a good 3 to 4 months to finish up the building once we get it wrapped up. So we're confident that we've maintained the same durations. We haven't squeezed any durations because of the 4 weeks that came out of float on that specific line item because it was a complicated piece of scope. So our schedule has not changed in that fashion. So we're still tracking towards the same. It's a little frustrating when you don't see anything going on the site because you have to do all this work on the facade of the building before you can get out of the way to clear the footprint for the building. So that's where we are right now, but we haven't slipped besides the completion of that truss work. The rest of the pieces are still falling in place the way we
So
planned.
Mayor, I'll give you an example. If you look at this picture on the top left and you see these guys that are on these boom cranes, those are their welders. And so you'll see a guy up in a bucket on that column, like he's at right now in that red and white boom, and he'd be there all day welding. I mean, the sizes of the steel are gigantic.
All right.
And so it just looks like it's going slow because it's such a comprehensive thing they have to do structurally to make it work.
So if we wanted to do a topping off ceremony, you know, we're talking.
For the steel would be in December. If you wanted to have a signing of a beam to put up the last piece of the steel would be in December.
Mayor, I appreciate the question. We have ASAE is going to be in town for a site visit on October 29th, and I'm sure those questions are going to come up. So I appreciate the question.
And there's really, how many pieces of steel were there? 43 pieces of steel that make up the addition?
We'll be able to assure, Ron, we'll be able to assure ASC that. Think it's on schedule.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we will.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions?
Okay, so now I get to talk about the boring part, which is the numbers, but the good news is nothing really has changed. Our budget's still 49 million. These are slides that are just updates from the last time I presented to the board. We started off with a GMP amendment value of 37,652,000 and change. The design builder has other contracts under him for soft costs like the architect of record and things like that. That's another 2 million. And then we've given them an approved 1.4 million in change orders. And I want to caveat by the word change orders. Everybody freaks out because you think that there's a change and that's an extra. And really what it is we have been able, fortunately, to implement a lot of things, whether it goes from technology to the LED lighting conversion that we've been talking about that's going to happen at the convention center. We're doing that in the atrium expansion. So we've been able to implement a lot of things, and I'm going to go through some of what the quote unquote change orders are in a second. On the owner side, we had $7.6 million of soft costs, consultants, FF&E, OS&E, things like that, and our contingencies. We've used that contingency to pay for the change orders that we've given to Turner. And then there was an initial investment by CCCFDC. So together we're at 49 million still. Next slide. So the design builder carries a contingency by contract that he's allowed to use for various things, from whether they have an overage in their buyout or things like that, the oops in the field, especially when you're doing a renovation project, you encounter things like that. So they've used $1.1 million of their contingency. That leaves them about 500,000. And we're tracking that very carefully with Turner because we want to use that money if they don't spend it. And by contract, we get to. The owner had 2,300,000 in hard cost contingency. We have an additional, what we call owner contingency. That's another 1.6 million. To date, between what we've paid for in hard cost changes, along with some of our soft cost changes, $1.7 million of that, which leaves us still 2.2 million left over in our side of the contingency ledger. So you add the two together of what's remaining, we have 2.7 million. And it's our goal. We have a long and alternate list that we hope we can implement as much as we possibly can with that money. Next slide. So here are the change orders, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, so I'm going to go through it really, really fast. The first one is we've talked about a lot already. That's the 411,000 for the bird glass. It's a Guardian product that is a UV coating inside the glass. If I showed you a sample, you'd say it's clear glass. The only way you'd see it is if you put like a ultraviolet light on it, and then you would see basically 2-inch purple stripes every 2 inches on center. And when the birds, apparently birds can see UV, And so when they fly towards this glass, it looks like a solid object to them. And so they divert and avoid the glass. And we're doing that on all the glass walls for the ballroom, as well as the glass railings on the event deck. We've spent $9,700 on landscape adjustments. That was from feedback we got from the city design review committee when we went before plan commission. They asked us to create a pathway at the southwest corner of the building that we didn't have before. So we implemented that for a little extra cost. We decided to change from a GMP from a rooftop unit that sits on the ground to an air handling unit that sits on the ground. And we did that primarily for guest experience. A rooftop unit, while it was economical, it would have given us a noisier experience for the guest. And so we opted to use this air handling unit instead because we thought it was an improvement for the project. We've had miscellaneous changes to the ballroom exterior, again, from the city design review committee. We had to modify some of the facade materials per the design review committee review. We adjusted some minor things with ballroom rigging points, and we changed some configurations for the air walls. That's to allow ASM to have maximum configurations. Mike, I think there was like 7 different configurations we can put the ballroom into. So they can really maximize and sell the ballroom in different ways. We did a lot of improvement, as I mentioned before, with regard to low voltage and LED lighting, and also with IT. That's why that big spend of $400,000 is there. We did make we not only created a floor sink and a mechanical space, but we also created a whole closet for that area. So that's why that cost is $7,800. We added baby changing stations in all the bathrooms as opposed to just in a women's room or in our unisex restrooms. So we're giving everybody the opportunity to change a baby in the restrooms. We extended a cloud ceiling in one of the large meeting rooms. That was to give us a better experience in that meeting room on the 3rd floor. And then the last thing was we spent $4,800 to create something from a maintenance perspective. We put a stain repellent on our new little AV loading area outside of the ballroom so that we wouldn't get salt and oil stains on the surface of the new concrete. And I think that's it. Are there any questions?
Any questions?
Other than whose idea was it to just have the baby changing stations in the women's restrooms? But go ahead.
Ellis, yeah, there's one more.
2023, yeah.
Yeah, there's one more element that I do think we should mention. We've had one issue on the building that we are taking care of. So you may recall when the storm came in, the tornadic winds came in and damaged windows and destroyed a church. We also had an incident on this project. And what happened on this project is when those window units came out on the west side for the work that you saw, they were stored up on the roof. That's where the temporary storage was. The cranes brought them up, put them up there. That's the only way you could do it. When those winds came in, they actually came in and lifted those windows and dropped them. They damaged a lot of the windows. They did some damage to the roof. The amount of damage is in the, I mean, this is over $500,000. It's between $500,000 and $1 million. Now, this is classically what you deal with insurance. We immediately made the claim with 2 carriers, actually, our builder's risk carrier and the property carrier. We're working through those issues with the carrier right now, CNA. I've been having repeated discussions with them. We've been gathering information. We will, I mean, as late as last night, we were still working with them. We will have an insurance recovery on this. There are details to be worked out. There are some interesting coverage issues. And I'll have a further report for that later on, but this is being handled because we had a very good risk management plan. We have this taken care of. It's not going to impact the schedule. It is going to, it's an additional challenge, but it's not going to impact getting the project done on time and within budget, but it's just one of those things that happens during the course of a project. So that is something that is going on right now in the project.
All right, any other questions? Thank you for that. We'll move to the Hilton Hotel update. Larry?
Good morning. So just a couple of brief highlights, looking industry-wide in the US, RevPAR continues to grow, but the growth is starting to slow down. Nationwide, we saw RevPAR growth of 3.5% in September. Year-to-date basis, 6.1%. So still continuing to grow, but the growth is starting to slow down a little bit. As mentioned last time, most markets, RevPAR is above 2019 levels on a nominal basis, but not when you factor in CPI. According to CBRE, 10 of the top 65 markets have not yet seen RevPAR return to their 2019 levels. It's a spattering of markets from large markets, San Francisco, Portland, to a handful in the Midwest as well. Looking ahead at this point, the outlook for urban hotels is more favorable than the resort and other destinations. Feels like they've got a little more runway with group coming back and hopefully business travel coming back as well. Next slide. As we look at the Cleveland market overall, continues to show strong RevPAR growth. Year to date, again, the US average is up 6.1%. The Cleveland market overall up 8.7%. Again, seeing a little bit of slowdown in terms of the growth, although I will say, you'll see on the next slide, September was a very strong month for the downtown hotels. Next slide. So this is the set for the downtown hotels. RevPAR in September was 162. That was up 11% compared to 2022 levels, and up about 12% compared to 2019. Just a very strong September. Some folks may have seen an article that came out about how Cleveland had some of the highest published rates in the market at a time in September and into a little bit into October as well. Next slide. Travel trends, passenger traffic at the airport continues to improve, which is great to see. That's at 96% of 2019 levels. Ron mentioned, looking ahead to 2024, some great citywide activity. Although, the last 3 to 4 months of the year is a little bit of a hole, so some concern over that part. And looking at the hotel supply downtown, several renovations underway and in the planning phases. And again, still starting to see some new hotel supply starting to evolve. I will say, just given the interest rate market right now and development market, financing new hotel supply right now is very difficult and very challenging. Nevertheless, some folks are still, continuing to proceed, but the actual execution and financing is very difficult right now. Any questions?
Question. All right, thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to old business today. No old business, you?
No old business.
All right, any new business?
No new business either.
No new business. All right, it seems the next meeting will be, the special meeting will be November 8th, 12 p.m. by Zoom. We'll send out the details to that to everyone. And we'll be voting on the annual plan and budget at that meeting. And then following that, the next quarterly meeting will be January 26th at 8:30 in the same room, same building, hopefully.
Room will be determined.
All right, room to be determined. All right. All right, any questions before I ask for a motion to adjourn? There will be a tour following the site for all those that want to see the tour. You congregate in the hallway out here if you want to walk through and see what's going on here. Other than that, I will thank everyone for their time today, and I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We've been moving second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting stands adjourned. Thank you very much.